Question 6 presents us with a no line reference question, right? Doesn't tell us where to look. And if we go ahead to the next question, we're going to see that we don't have a pair. So this means we're going to have to do this one kind of without the guide of a line reference. And when you're using the no reading strategy, that can be a challenge. However, we do have a method to give us a little bit of a boost, a little bit of a hint. And that is the chronology rule, right? So remember, on reading, the reading questions, the answers to those questions are generally in the order that they appear in the passage. So we can use the surrounding questions to guide us. Now, number 5, we know the answer now was choice C. But even without that, we kind of see that, most of the answers are in the 40s and 50s. And so generally, that's probably where I looked. I mean, the one that I was pretty sure was wrong was D anyway. So even if I got 5 wrong, I'd still have a pretty good sense that, this paragraph is probably the place to look. And then in question 7, we get to 74 to 79. So that kind of brings us into this paragraph. So let me actually write that. Number 7. So number 5 rather was up here. So we're probably going to assume that number 6 is somewhere in between these two questions, because that's what the chronology rule means, that there's an order to the way this works. As always, I will give my little disclaimer that sometimes the chronology rule gets broken, but it's always a good place to start. And in this case, it's really obvious once we find it, because they're asking for something really specific. Why does he close the history book? Well, it says he closes the book in line 69. So the traditional method of finding answers is to skim the passage. And we kind of are still doing that. But because of the chronology rule, we're not skimming from line 1 to 90. We're skimming this smaller section. And so we just find things faster. And if it's not in those lines, if they did break the rule, then yeah, we might need to skim the whole passage. But why not start with the smaller section that's more likely to contain your answer anyway? So for this, now we just need to look around here, right? Follow the +1 sentence rule and just read the context. What do they say? Well, but before Limey got halfway through them, a coat that he recognized as his father's was hung on the hook next to his chair. Limey closed the book and said, "I didn't think you were coming." So his father's here. Well, that's exactly what choice A says. The people at the other table are too disruptive. Well, they do talk about that earlier in this paragraph. That was the last question, in fact, that the women's voices are terrible and he had to skim 2 whole pages without knowing what was on them. So that is true, but that is not why he closed the book. It doesn't say that he closed the book at that point. He kept reading. Here they say it's his father. So I'd say this is a trap, because we did kind of just read that for the last question. He has finished the chapter. Nope, doesn't say that. He's preparing to leave. Doesn't say that. So A is just straight up said. And that is a good thing about no line reference questions, right? They're difficult at first because we don't know where to look. But very often, once we figure out where that answer is, it's kind of obvious. So we have a lot more work on the front end, but on the back end, it's usually just looking at the lines and then just the answer is pretty much right there. Not always, but often enough. And so that's why the chronology rule helps us, is it lets us find that answer faster and more confidently, and then we can just move on to something else. So there you go. No line reference questions, not really that bad. No reason to panic. No reason not to use the no reading strategy. We've just got to use some clever techniques to find that answer faster.